Hello. Today I have a really fun video that I have had planned for a few weeks and I am just super excited. I've never seen anything like this before and I like to think that I'm being a little bit creative and original. Today's video is going to be another reading vlog, but it's a little bit different because I'm going to be channeling somebody else while I'm reading. What I mean, I went to the library and I actually checked out 5 books and I thought all 5 of them were going to be available to me at the time that I checked them out, and it turns out only 4 were. First, I'm gonna say who it's inspired by. You've already seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, so you already know. I am going to be reading as Jess Mariano for a week. Reading like him and reading some of the books that he's talked about in Gilmore Girls. This was really fun because he is my favorite fictional character ever. I just adore him. If you've seen Gilmore Girls, Jess is a character that comes in the 2nd season and is supposed to be like this bad boy. So I think he's amazing. He likes to read. I thought this video would be really fun because normally I just read romance books, so this will put me a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm also just kind of reading stuff that I don't think I would normally pick up if I wasn't doing something like this. But I love Jess, I love Gilmore Girls, and I think this will be really fun. First book that I have, and the book that I've already started reading because it's the shortest, is by J.D. Salinger. I have Franny and Zoe. There's an episode where he is supposed to be helping out Lorelai because they have like a weird, rocky, she doesn't really like him too much kind of relationship. There's an episode where he basically goes to help her out at her house and he's walking out of Rory's room and she's like, did you get lost? Like, you've been here before, what are you doing? And he was like, no, I was just looking at Rory's books. And she was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, I want to see what she had for Franny and Zoe. She does. That's the first book. And I will say I already started it. I'm like 20-ish pages in. So I'm gonna explain what it's about. Basically, it is about Franny and Zoe, who are siblings and the youngest members of the fictional Glass family, who are written a lot in J.D. Salinger works. Franny's portion of the story deals with the character's issue with going away to college and kind of finding like what the real world actually is and if that's what they actually want, or if they need to kind of like put themselves on a different track to find themselves in the world, which I think is a great story. And then I haven't gotten to Zoe's part yet because it's split into parts, but that is about Franny's brother trying to help her find stability and all that kind of stuff. So far, she has just come back from college and she is getting picked up by her boyfriend Lane. They're going to like this college football game and she's like not really happy to be back, but she like doesn't like college because she's basically saying that like English classes are ruining like literature, which she's basically saying that it's ruining like the art of it. And then her boyfriend Lane is kind of like getting into it with her and he's like, what are you talking about? Like there's so many great poets and so many great writers. And she's like, okay, sorry, I guess I'm just in a bad mood. So she's kind of going through a bunch of stuff and like trying to figure out herself, like changing through college and trying to figure out what she wants to do with herself. Very relatable. These are library books, so I can't annotate in them or like put tabs in them or anything because I'm just gonna have to take them back out. So if there's anything important that I want to share, I'm just gonna take pictures of it and post it on my book account, or I'll just read them out to you. I'm gonna get started before this intro is like a million years long. So I finished the first big chunk of the book, and basically what happens in the first part, without spoiling anything, is just kind of focusing on Franny and her relationship with her boyfriend Lane. You can just tell they like are kind of over each other. It shows like how exhausting it is like being with him. It's the exhaustion that she feels like with the life that she has currently. Pretty good, like a lot. Just finished Franny and Zoe and I liked this book a lot, like a lot. Zoe's part kind of opens up with talking about him being an actor. He's also like kind of miserable with things, but he's kind of just grown to accept it. He's like, you know what, this is just like the life that I have. There's a part where Franny's looking outside at like this girl and her dog is just like watching them and they're both like, wow, nobody like realizes like the beauty in life. Everybody's so focused on everything else. And what's crazy is that this takes place in the 50s. Now, like when we talk about like nobody sees the beauty in life, it's like because everybody's on like social media and stuff. So it's just interesting how obviously people still felt that way then. It's just like an obviously very different way of living. I had taken a few pictures of some parts that I really liked in this book so I could post them on my book account. And there was one part where Franny is ranting to Zoe. Like there's one line where it says, what's the difference whether the treasure is money or property or even culture or even just plain knowledge. Just talking about how she thought that college was just like this most like awful place where you're dedicated to putting treasure together and like you're supposed to be studying treasure, but none of it's like authentic. It's just like what people want you to know versus like what treasure actually is, which I thought was really interesting. And then she just goes on like this long tangent ranting about school and life and the people in her life and why she like doesn't like the way things are. Zoe tries to interrupt and be like, let's talk about this, let's, you know, break this down, it's okay. And she's like, just stop it, Zoe, just stop. And he says, I will in a minute. Why are you breaking down? Incidentally, if you're gonna collapse with all your might, why can't you use the same energy to be well and stay busy? And I was like, dang. So that kind of stuck. I'm giving this 5 stars. Thank you, Jess Mariano, for introducing me to this book. The next one that I have is The Naked Lunch by William Burroughs. Jess was in a bookstore in California and just picked up this book. There's not a whole lot on the back for me to really explain what this book is about, so I have my phone here and I just like looked it up. It says, in a convoluted and disturbing string of events, a drug addict flees from the police. It's supposed to be like a non-linear narrative about like, getting somewhere and then having to leave and then going somewhere else and then okay, we have to leave again. We're just gonna go for it. I'm hoping that this is something that I could get through easily because Franny and Zoe, like, it was short, but I had to like sit and think a lot, which I didn't mind considering what like the topics of this book were. This one is like a completely different experience. Okay, so little update. I actually stopped reading Naked Lunch after like 20 pages and I'm gonna explain why. I looked on Goodreads and the reviews on this are pretty good. It's told through the eyes of a drug addict and I have read books like that before, but this one is just like so technical on like drug and substance terms that I'm not familiar with, so I was just reading this like, okay. There's also just like a lot of like heavy language in this that I personally am not a fan of. I just cannot see myself getting through this and feeling like it was for enjoyment. I think I would read this and just feel pain from like forcing myself to read. So I'm not gonna keep reading that one. The next book I have is High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. This one I'm pretty excited about. I have high hopes and I'm praying that this one is one that hits with me. It's mentioned in season 2 episode 21. This is an episode where Rory goes to see Jess. They go to a record store. This book comes up because Jess compares the record store to this book. This book is about a record store owner in his mid-30s living in London. After his girlfriend leaves him, he embarks on a journey of self-discovery, reviewing his past relationships by creating top 5 lists based on his love of pop music. It's about music and love and heartbreak and all of that in this guy's life. I love music. I'm a music business major, so I'm excited about this one. I think this one will be a good one for me. Haven't read anything today. I've been productive when it comes to books, and I'll explain how. I bought a bunch of book stuff. By bunch I mean 3 things. On my Notion, ready for this? I made a list of books I want to get and links to all of them. I get most of my books from a bookstore. A lot of these are ones in series that I, you know, have read and I want to buy them now and like annotate them and all of that. There's some books that I've heard such good things about that I think I'll like. I don't want to get the library book and then be like, oh well, I wish I would have just bought it, you know? I get library books when I think it could be hit or miss, or when it's a book that I've never heard anybody talk about, so that I'm not spending my money on it. And then if I like the book afterwards, I'll buy it and read it again and annotate it. And I'm gonna keep reading High Fidelity. I like it so far. So far it's just broken down like the 5 girlfriends that this guy's had, like the top 5 list of girls that he's been with have like destroyed him in some way, and he's talking about his most recent ex and being like, well, maybe you'd make the top 10 but certainly not the top 5 because you didn't destroy me like these girls did. So that's kind of interesting. I just got off the most dreadful shift of my life. What better than to come home to some book stuff from Amazon? For context, I'm a server, so anybody that works in food service, just that's all I gotta say. So I ordered 3 things yesterday. I ordered 1 thing off of Etsy, so it's not gonna be here for a bit, and then I ordered these things off of Amazon because I've been talking about it. Decided I'm gonna start annotating my books, but I'm gonna do it on clear sticky notes so that I can tear them out if I feel like it. And then I also got pens. So these are both from Amazon. These are just transparent sticky notes. I don't know what the brand is, but I just got these gel pens, which I'm super excited about. Oh, look at these. The lighting in here is really bad. It's like yellowy right now because of my light, but they're like pastel. You see them? But these are so cute. Okay, that made my day better. Amazing. Every time I do my mascara, like, it feels like there's sand in my eye, but it's only in one eye, so I feel like there's just something wrong besides the mascara. It's definitely not that. Anyways, I'm getting ready for work. If I look like I'm having issues because there's something in my eye, honestly, I think it might be Old Bay that I'm accidentally getting in my eye. I finished High Fidelity, and I gave it 3 stars. I liked it. Wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I did like it. There were some parts where I was like, what are we talking about here? Like, I knew what we were talking about, but I was like, kind of gross. It's told from a man's perspective, so a man's perspective on love and heartbreak was certainly something I wasn't expecting much about. It's kind of cool, certain parts, like I said before, is listing off like his top 5 heartbreaks and trying to convince himself that his most recent one wasn't as intense as the other one, so it kind of takes you through those, and then throughout the story he's like reconnecting with his most recent ex. Through that, he's also contacting his old ex-girlfriends to basically see how they're doing, see what they're up to, and see if he really is the problem after all, which he's a man, so. He meets somebody else, like he goes to a concert and meets this girl that's performing, and it's very authentic, which I think is why, from a man's perspective, I was like, God, this is painful to read sometimes. I think it was good. I was a little bit bored sometimes, but it was one I'd actually been wanting to read for a while, even before I planned out doing this video. So I'm pretty glad I read it. Next, I have 100 Years of Solitude. This book is mentioned. I don't think it's actually mentioned. I think it's a clip of Jess, when Rory sees him on the bus, which I'm not going to speak about, is reading 100 Years of Solitude. So this book, 100 Years of Solitude tells the story of the rise and fall, birth and death of a mythical town. And it says, inventive, amusing, magnetic, sad, and alive with unforgettable men and women, brimming with the truth, compassion, and a lyrical magic that strikes the soul. Whatever that means. I have to leave for work in about an hour. I have to go to the library and pick up some more books, and I'm going to return some of the ones that I already read, such as these 3 that made it into this video. I'm gonna go pick up some other books to read, but I'm gonna finish getting ready for work, read a little bit, and then go to the library. I finished the last book for this video, 100 Years of Solitude, and it was an interesting read. I looked up if it's supposed to be like a complex type read, and apparently it is like generally pretty difficult to read. There's just a lot of like names, and there's a family tree in the book that I have. That made it easier to follow, but it's still like a lot, and it's very, very, very descriptive. It's not super heavy on dialogue, which is something that I usually need. So this definitely was hard for me to read, only because of how it was set up. It was a really interesting thing. Like, it was a very interesting book. The main thing going on is that there's a conflict between the government and the liberal rebels. There's just like constant fighting and like war, and I knew these books were gonna be something out of my comfort zone, but I just wasn't expecting this much. But then I remembered Jess Mariano is the one that gave me these book recommendations. I feel like I should have known better, but I still really liked it. It was a really interesting book. I definitely needed to use Spark Notes to help me through, but this video was really fun, and I definitely would want to do another one like this, because there's plenty other books that he has recommended or mentioned in Gilmore Girls that I think I would like. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye-bye.